This was the scene Tuesday morning outside a home connected to one of those men, 26-year-old Justin Guzman, who, according to a federal indictment, helped traffic drugs through Southern California. Authorities say the gangs would move drugs from Mexico through California and onto other parts of the U.S. and Canada.
America, two men who ran that drug operation were already sitting in a prison cell in India. They've been locked up since 2015. Prosecutors say they still ordered a murder in Canada, still moved 1,000 kilograms of drugs through Los Angeles, still extorted families across 3 different continents. How do you run a global empire from inside a foreign prison?
Working together, law enforcement across multiple continents took a major step towards stopping 3 transnational organized crime groups that murder, maim, extort, and traffic drugs, leaving trails of pain and devastation in their wake. We will use the full weight and power of the United States federal government to identify, target, and dismantle these organized crime groups who prey on American communities.
What is up, guys? Tyson, DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. The operation is called Operation Hardball. The announcement came out of Los Angeles on July 7th. 3 criminal networks, all based in India, all operating in the United States, Canada, and Europe, all charged on the same day. Here are the numbers, you guys. 37 people charged, 24 in custody, 11 arrested in California, 3 in Canada, 1 in Spain, 50 search warrants executed across Sacramento and Los Angeles. What investigators found, approximately 1,000 kilograms, that's 2,200 pounds of cocaine and methamphetamine. That's roughly the weight of some small pickup trucks, plus heroin, plus $40,000 in cash, plus a dozen or so firearms, including a fully automatic machine gun. It's an automatic weapon that keeps firing as long as you pull the trigger. It's illegal to own without a special federal licensing. This network, they obviously had one. 11 federal agencies were involved. We're talking about the FBI, the DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, that's the DEA, the federal agency that handles major drug cases, the ATF, the federal agency that handles firearm trafficking, Homeland Security, the LAPD, and the RCMP, that is the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Canadian's law enforcement agency. That's the equivalent to the United States' FBI. 15 of the defendants arrested in the United States were here, you guessed it, guys, illegally. That number came directly from the indictment, the formal criminal document here, not a, random talking point here, the actual paperwork. They came on visas and you guessed it again, they overstayed and entered another way and were then recruited by these particular networks. Let me quickly teach you how criminal empire runs from inside a foreign prison. Once you see the architecture here, you'll recognize it probably anywhere you go. Lawrence Bishnoi, 33 years old, Punjab State, India. That's the northwest region of India, in prison since 2015. He didn't start, apparently, as a criminal. He started as a student politician at the university in India. He built a following. That following converted over the years into a criminal network with thousands of members and associates across multiple countries. Mind you, he did this all while he was in prison. And here's the mechanism here. Prison guards in India confiscated phones from inmates. Bishnoi's network smuggled them back in, specifically these devices that ran voice over internet protocol apps, so VoIP apps. Those are apps like WhatsApp, Signal, and similar platforms, apps that route calls through the internet instead of regular kind of cell phone lines or phone lines. These are encrypted. Some are significantly harder for the authorities to monitor. Bishnoi allegedly used these apps to direct murders, approve drug shipments, and authorize extortion targets from all behind bars. I want you to think of this like a remote CEO for a company who actually never ever shows up to the office, except the office moves drugs and meetings for approving to kill people. He delegated the day-to-day, controlled the lieutenants. His North American lieutenant, a man named Satinderjeet Singh, also known as Goldy Brar. Can't make these names up. Childhood friends of Bishnoi. According to the prosecutors, Brar exclusively spoke for Bishnoi across North America and directed violence in his name. Goldy Brar is not in custody. The FBI has a $50,000 reward posted for any information about his specific location.
Some of the new things that came out of this is sort of a direct link. We've certainly heard before that the Bishnoi gang was involved in the alleged assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar.
The murder at the center of this case, June 18, 2023, Surrey, British Columbia, a suburb of Vancouver, Canada. A man named Hardeep Singh Nijjar was shot and killed as he left a temple. Nijjar was apparently a prominent religious and political leader. Prosecutors allege that Bishnoi and Brar directed the assassination. Bishnoi provided the photo of Nijjar and the addresses of where he could potentially be found. Two gunmen waited in the parking lot at the temple from a prison cell in India via a smuggled phone to a parking lot assassination in Canada. That's the distance this operation covered here. Here's something I want to be straight with you about, because these are two separate stories that have been running about this murder in the press, and blending them creates a little bit of confusion. So in 2023, at the time, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, you guys remember him, publicly accused the Indian government agents, not a criminal gang, of involvement in Nijjar's killing. That caused a major diplomatic rupture between Canada and India. Both countries recalled their ambassadors. This FBI indictment charges the Bishnoi criminal network with murder, a criminal organization, not an Indian government. Both allegations can coexist, and they come from different governments, different investigations pointing at different actors. The FBI is prosecuting a criminal case. Trudeau's allegations involves a completely separate track. And for this video, I'm not going to blend them. You deserve an accurate version of whatever's available to us at this moment. As of the time of this recording, what the FBI charged is what I'll tell you the FBI charged. Nothing more at the moment. Saying that for the YouTube purposes. That is the disclosure here. The third network in this case got some of the fewest headlines, and it ran the most drugs. A man named Ravinder Singh Dhanda, a Canadian operative out of Vancouver. He gave himself the alias of John Wick. Dhanda didn't run the murder operation. Dhanda sounds like an urban first name, right? He ran the logistics that made the whole thing move here.
The feds have unsealed a total of 3 indictments here. 37 people are now facing charges of racketeering and drug trafficking. The DOJ says a total of 23 search warrants were conducted in the Sacramento area, and 11 of them in the Los Angeles area.
Racketeering, for those of you that aren't familiar with it, is a legal term that means running a criminal organization like a structured business, coordinated, ongoing, and defined specific roles. Think of it as charging somebody not just for a crime, but for building a criminal company that actually did it. The Dhanda indictment describes the supply chain, long-haul commercial semi-trucks, the 18-wheelers that you pass on the freeway when you're driving on it, carrying hundreds and hundreds of pounds of cocaine and methamphetamine every week from Los Angeles towards the Canadian border. At times, they use trucks from working farms as quote-unquote cover for this. A farm truck loaded with produce, we've covered that several times on this channel, is less suspicious at the border crossing than a commercial freight vehicle. Dhanda allegedly negotiated the transportation rates and managed the specific logistics here. He wanted, according to investigators, to start a new cartel from Vancouver. His nickname was John Wick. Watched a lot of movies, I guess. Dhanda did. He is now facing a mandatory minimum of life of imprisonment. Life, that is the absolute floor here. It's not the ceiling. The structure of Bishnoi's network, leadership insulated inside a prison cell, lieutenants running daily operations, a logistics arm moving product, a target population that wouldn't call the police because their family members can be reached at home. That is the cartel architecture here. The Mexican cartels actually pioneered this model. What makes this case different is that the leadership is in India. The logistics layer is in Canada and California. And the extortion targets are families who immigrated into the United States and still have relatives back in India. The last part of this operation is kind of genius in regards of, criminal mindset of the specific network, and actually probably one of the cruelest parts. These communities, Sikh families in Surrey, business owners in Los Angeles, immigrants with parents still in Punjab, had been living under this extortion for years before a federal indictment was made legible here. The network operated in the dark, not because it was quote unquote invisible, but because its victims had every single reason not to report it. Call the police here about extortion threats. The network calls the corrupt contacts in India, and your brother gets charged with the murder that he didn't actually commit. A real criminal case filed in a real Indian court by a real police officer. One of the defendants in the second indictment of the Bhagwanpuria gang, I believe I'm saying that correctly, is an active, currently serving police chief in India, charged with filing a false murder case against a victim's family in India to extract $400,000 from the same family living in Los Angeles. A badge and a court system used as a collection tool. And here's the part, you guys, that shows you the full reach here.
Members and associates of these organized crime groups are engaged in extortion in many of the communities in which the enterprise operated, including the United States and in Canada. Members obtained pattern of life information on extortion targets and their families, often focusing on family members located in India.
Pattern of life information, that phrase is from the FBI, and that means that they basically studied targets, where they lived, where they worked, who their relatives were, where those relatives work and lived in India, like a PI or an investigator does here, built by a criminal network. The Bishnoi enterprise also funded itself through robbery. From March 2024 through roughly July 2025, they stole approximately 520 kilograms, over 1,100 pounds of cocaine from rival drug trafficking groups in Los Angeles. They stole from other drug dealers, basically, because they were more violent than the people that they were stealing from. They also attempted to extort victims in Los Angeles and Thousand Oaks, demanding in December 2025 and January 2026 a $5 million payment. $5 million from people living in the suburbs of Los Angeles, threatened in writing through those security apps that I talked about, WhatsApp and Signal. One defendant in the Bhagwanpuria network was already in ICE custody, basically meaning that immigration enforcement had already detained him and was holding him for removal orders outside of the United States, and he was still making those extortion calls. Hundreds of calls to a woman in Ohio, death threats, pay us or die, from inside a federal detention facility. The DOJ prosecutors were asked about this at the press conference. They believe that the calls went through either a smuggled phone device or another person's phone that he was routing the calls from. The assistant U.S. attorney put an end to this story plainly here. Pop it up on the screen here. The federal prison is very different from state prison. I guarantee you he won't be extorting any more victims once he is in our custody. The Canadian government designated the Bishnoi enterprise as a terrorist organization back in September 2025. Not a drug gang, a terrorist organization. That label kind of changes what legal tools and law enforcement can be used and what penalties actually apply to anybody that's found working with them. Goldy Brar, the man who ran the North American operations, who prosecutors say approved the murder in Surrey, is still out there. The FBI is, again, looking for any additional information. America, here's the verdict. The man at the top were already behind bars. Prosecutors say they still ran murders, drug trafficking, and extortion across 3 different continents using smuggled phones, a network of lieutenants, and a foreign police chief badge. They targeted families who came to this country to build potentially something and use the relatives of those families left behind as leverage. The FBI ran this for years, 50 warrants in one day, 24 in custody across 3 countries, 1,000 kilograms off the highway, an active Indian police chief facing extradition. The prison walls and the ocean weren't enough cover. They never are. Let me know what you think about this. Drop it down in the comment section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.